So we're going to explore these ideas of the algebraic rules for simplifying. So we've got 9 different examples which each explore a different rule of algebra on how to simplify. All of these are in their expanded form. Now we don't want to be writing all of this out. We want to do it in a nice simple way to convey what we're trying to do mathematically. So let's have a look at the first one. Now we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write 4p. Okay, so 4 times p. Okay, nice and simple. With this one, corresponds to our second rule. Now, because this corresponds to our second rule, our first rule, we never ever write the multiplication sign. So we're going to get rid of that, and we're going to write 5d. Remember, the number always comes first, followed by the pronumeral. Okay, now if we ever saw that 5d, we know that that is 5 times d. Coming over here, r divided by 7. Now we don't write it like that in algebra. We write it as a fraction, with r being the numerator in this case, and 7 being the denominator. Now the pronumeral can be either or, just depending on the expanded version. Coming down over here, we've got m times n times 6. Now remember, the number always goes first. So 6, now doesn't have to be, but I prefer it. Put these in alphabetical order. So we're getting rid of both of the multiplication signs. We don't need them. So I'm just going to write m, n. Okay, nice and simple. I don't need to write the multiplication signs. So this, I would see this, and I would go 6 times m times n. Now coming over here. Okay, now not something that we've touched upon. We're going to do that in the next couple of videos, but what we can do with this is actually plus it together. We don't need to write them as 2 separate terms. Okay, we can actually condense this. So 4 plus 2 is 6, and x. Now we can do this because these are like terms. These have the same pronumeral. Now because they have the same pronumeral, we can actually condense them. Coming over to 6, 5 times k times 2 times h. This one's a little bit trickier. It's kind of like number 2. However, okay, we've got 2 numbers. What we're going to do is deal with them first. 5 times 2, which is 10. Now we can't condense these any further, so we're just going to write these in alphabetical order. H, k, like so. Coming over here, now this one, you might think to write 3y. That's actually not the case. You would only write 3y if you were plussing these. You're actually timesing the y's by itself 3 times. So we would write y as the pronumeral, and then because we're timesing it 3 times by itself, we write to the power of 3, like that. If you would write 3y, that would actually be incorrect. Now 8, very similar to 5, we can actually, because they're like terms, they've got the same pronumeral, we can actually write that in one term. 5a take away 4a, so 5 take away 4 is 1a. Remember, we never write 1a. By writing a here, it's implied that I've already got 1a. Okay, so you would only ever write a. Never ever 1. So coming over here, so I'm going to write the number first, like always. Now b times b, looking over here, y times y times y, y to the power of 3. b times b, b to the power of 2. Remember, I don't need to write this sign. Okay, we never write the multiplication sign, we just write it like that. When simplifying algebraic expressions, we have to also remember our order of operations. So I've got a summary here. So your first step, okay, is to simplify anything inside of brackets. Your second step in this is to simplify any times or divide from left to right. Then our third step is to simplify anything with a positive or negative from left to right. So we have a look at the first example. We've got 2 times m minus 4. So we've got times and we've got a minus. Now times comes before the minus, so I'm going to circle my terms. Okay, like so. So what I'm going to do first is my times. So 2 times m. Okay, now the sign or the operation, so in this case the times and the minus, is owned by the pronumeral or the number directly to the right of it. So the 4 owns the minus, the m owns the times. So what I'm going to do first, obviously, okay, is my times. So 2m. Okay, now I can write minus 4, okay, because that's the only term I've got left. Now I can't simplify that any further because these are unlike terms. The first term, 2m, has the pronumeral of m, whereas the minus 4 does not. Coming over here, okay, so again, I've got my same conundrum. So I've got the 15 minus k divided by 3. So again, let's circle my terms like so. Remember, the k owns the minus, the 3 owns the divide. So I'm going to simplify minus k, okay, divided by 3. So I'm going to write minus k divided by 3. Remember, that's how I simplify my division. Now I've got my 15 to contend with. Okay, so what I can do, okay, is simply plus 15. If it doesn't have a sign there, okay, what that really means is that it doesn't have it's a positive. We can infer that as a positive. If it has a negative, it's a negative. If it doesn't have anything, it's a positive. Coming over here, okay, circling my terms. Now I've got my brackets here. Now looking up here, okay, this is my bracket I've got to do first. So let's write that out. 13 divided by, okay, d times d, okay, d squared plus 4. So I've got that. Now 13 over d. Now I'm doing the divide first because that comes before the plus or the minus. Now I'm only left with this plus 4, and I just tack it onto the end like so. This again is in its simplified form. And the last example that I'm going to show you is actually the reverse of the first step that we did. Okay, so in this case we've been given the simplified version. Now to truly assess whether you understand this whole idea of simplifying is to actually take the simplified version and put it into its expanded version. So that's what this type of question would ask. Okay, so we're given the simplified version, we want it in expanded. Now we've got 5. Now we know that in between the 5 and the b and the c, there's a times sign or a multiplication sign. So we would write times b times c. Okay, nice and simple. Over here, again, exactly the same thing. Minus 4 times k times, now this 2, okay, symbolizes that r is being times by itself twice. So we would go times r times r. Now coming over to this last one, again, x to the power of 2, x is being multiplied by itself twice. So x times x, okay, minus t divided by 11. Okay, so once you understand how to do this step, the expansion is very, very simple.